Listen, let's do it properly.
I am doing it properly.
Yeah, you're not supposed to talk.
You saw me.
No, behave.
Don't blame it on me.
Look, I'm expecting an important phone call, so stop it. Right, here we go. Right, action. Ready? Hello, Nathan.
Hello, Dave.
Right, welcome to Legro's Lab. What do you reckon?
Dreading it already.
Yeah. The reason I want to talk to you, mate, is because you've made some changes in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had some funny moments as well. And there's a couple of memories that I've got of you. When I first kind of knew you, really, I'd just like to remind people that are watching that you are diabetic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so bear that in mind. So you, on this particular day over in Mallorca, do you remember this? And we was going out training. And you decided, what did you decide?
Well, obviously, as you know, when I used to cycle, if I wasn't on form, I would suffer.
Yeah.
And I would struggle.
That's pretty much all the time. Isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much all the time. So it was a mountain day, and I think you said to me, obviously I was a bit overweight. Oh, ride through the mountains with your leggings, but you didn't actually say, take the caffeine pills as well. So I decided to take the caffeine pills.
Yes.
Just for the extra boost at the climbs and stuff. And obviously I didn't drink, being the young, stupid individual that I was at that period of time. So I ended up having a bit of dehydration, which then stemmed into my sugar levels being all over the place. And then obviously we couldn't get my levels back up because I was dehydrated. So I ended up in hospital.
Yeah, before that, I told you to climb in the van because I was going to take you back.
Yeah, but you'd driven off at first.
Yeah, well, there was that. Yes.
And then you realised when you saw me on the descent, I just got him early.
Yeah.
But I won the sprint at least.
Yeah, you did.
Which was good. That night we ended up in the ambulance.
Alcudia Hospital, wasn't it?
So, and when I was in the ambulance on the way, I hypoed.
Yes.
So then my sugar levels normally, with the amount of glucose that I would have taken, would have obviously shot back, but for obvious reasons they didn't. And then obviously we got there, they done all the checks, and they said my levels were fine, but I knew they were coming back down.
That's when I turned up, wasn't it? Because I then drove to the hospital, and I saw you on the stretcher, and you could barely say, sugar, sugar. And this, you had a drip. Was it a glucose drip?
No, it was just, it wasn't glucose at that point, no. It was just for my hydration.
But they weren't giving you sugar, were they?
No, because I had obviously had a little bit of sugar before I got there. So within there, I was actually within range at that point. But as a diabetic, you can obviously feel when you're hypoing or hyper. So you know what's going to happen. So I knew it was going to come back down. But the doctor obviously wouldn't give me any glucose at that point.
That's when I saw you.
Yeah, and you saw me.
You gave me so much stress because this was late at night, right, by the time you were treated and seen. And I had no sugar.
Yep.
So I had to then find sugar, which involved me going to the canteen, the hospital canteen, which was boarded up. I had to kick the door down. Right. So there's me kicking the door down in Alcudia Hospital and rummaging through all the bits and found some sugar sachets. And I come running back and I got some sugar, Nathan, right? And I said to you, do you remember? I said, are you sure? Because you were nearly dead.
And And the thing
I didn't know if I was doing the right thing.
Where at the beginning you said I changed your life and obviously everything through sight, but I don't think people realise that how much you changed my life and you actually saved my life.
Yeah.
That
it was one of them moments, wasn't it?
Because of the doctor, he wouldn't listen to me, and I knew I was hypoing. I was going to go in a coma at that point.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't been there, I would have gone into...
I know. All I can remember is just shoveling loads of sugar down you.
Because they had waited. They got me outside the x-ray room because they wanted to x-ray my stomach because of dehydration, because obviously I was getting pain. And, when you look back now, it's like, and actually just saying it there, it's... If you hadn't been there, I would have died.
Probably. Yeah, I know.
You know, and
talking about would have died, what about in the evening? Because I'd gone back to the hotel. Meanwhile, you've been transferred to a ward. I got this message saying, help, I need insulin now, and, which I did, right? But the trouble was, it was late at night. I had to they wouldn't let anyone in. So I somehow had to wait for somebody to go out the doors, let in, and I sneaked in, managed to find your ward, creeped up. The nurses were asleep, right? And I've got your insulin and I've got a bag of clothes because the plan was actually to get out. Right? We had to break out of the hospital. We had to get past the nurses. We had to get past the security, right? Which we did. It was like Mission Impossible, wasn't it?
Because obviously where I'd hypoed, they then rechecked my glucose after you had given me the sugar, but so it was still low. So what they did then was put me on a pure glucose drip. But they didn't actually change it later. They didn't stabilise me. So I was thinking, I could feel it because you can feel the difference. Right? You can feel like this lactic acid build up. And I'm thinking, what's going on? You know, and I'm sort of like looking and I've checked the drip and it's just glucose. And I'm doing the blood check and it's just high. And obviously that's when... man. And at that point, I had also gone down to the nurse's station and they were asleep. And they just, because I was buzzing. And then they just said, go back. Just escorting me back, no checking, no bloods, nothing.
No, it wasn't the best.
You know, so I'd gone from potentially dying there to, you know, we're in a difficult position here now. So it was a double lifesaver.
Oh, wow.
So, but it was, it was...
it was a moment for you. I mean, for me, I was scared stiff because I didn't know. I remember ringing your mum. I gave you loads of sugar and she said, Nathan can manage his own levels, you know. So I was a bit... But where it affects me, Nath, is not that alone. That might have affected you then. But where it's affected me was another occasion. Do you remember when you was in the Brite team? It was a professional racing team and you was on my development squad, which I was looking over, you know, a bunch of guys, Ben Hallam, Wiggins, Selin, Story, all these guys. And you... up until recently was one of the boys, but they were winning all the bike races, and you weren't winning, and you kept getting your ass kicked, and some of it was your diabetes because you used to live on fucking Mars bars. You know, you was like up with the Mars bars, the insulin and down, and then next minute you go to a race. So yes, you mishandled it. If you'd been racing now, you'd know different. But where it's got me, and it's changed my life, is that one day at Herne Hill, you might remember this. You'd had enough. You'd had your ass kicked, and all our Brite kids were winning, and you climbed off, and you were sobbing your heart out. I still can't. Sorry, mate. I was devastated to the point that this kid was on his own and nobody could help him. And I, you know what I said to you? And I don't know what I said, mate, every dog has his day. And I said to you, you're going to win the national championship. And you just like, yeah, whatever. And you know what? You know what? If you remember that day, we was at the national championships and Brite team cleaned up all the pros, the amateurs, you know, even me, I won the bloody sprint. And then it was your turn. And it's a bloody under 16 points race. And you won it. You fucking won it. Right? And this kid that had no chance has gone from laying on the ground, sobbing his heart out, to winning the under 16 nationals. And I remember I was smoking then. And you went and I said to you, go and get your jersey, right? You deserve it. And I went out and I couldn't handle it. And I went out and had a cigarette while you was having your glory. Because I'm not one of them coaches that say, oh, my coach rider, Nathan Harman, you know, wins again. You know, I just let you have your glory. But what touched me, mate, is when I come back in the track and you sat there, you was in your jersey and your medal, and you looked up and said, I'm fucking national champion, right? And we had this hug. And it was like, for me, you know, I was a young coach then as well as a rider, and it taught me coaching isn't just about making someone good. Coaching is about touching people, you know, within, and building them up and bringing them up to you know, believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your take on that was, but for me, it was, like, there's us, couple of grown men. I mean, sort their hearts out. How ridiculous is that?
You know, it's the only way, like, obviously, because you look back over things and you think it was that time was the best time of my life. You know what I mean? You couldn't. And I think with you, we had like this, just, I felt like we had a special bond compared to maybe some others. I don't know, because, you know, we grew up in sort of similar areas, and, you know, and I remember the first thing I did was come up, they interviewed me, and the first thing I said was, thanks to my coach.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Because I wasn't one of these cyclists that had a dad that was a cyclist. I got into cycling because my dad enjoyed riding to work.
Yeah.
And we watched the Tour de France. He didn't know about cycling, you know, and all these guys in Brite, their dad raced, and, you know, their family raced, and they knew. And it was the first time I'd ever had a coach, but all I knew at that time was I wanted to be British champion, and I wanted to be a professional cyclist. And without you, I wouldn't have done that.
No.
You know, and with everything, you know, because there's times when we went Manchester and it was me and you, and we had these ups and downs, and we had, you know, what every athlete goes through. But I know that I wouldn't have been where I was without you.
Nice. Did you kind of, your psychology on that, did that, because you went into coaching and giving bodybuilders nutrition. Was there a sort of a connection there?
Definitely, because I can always relate to, you know, some people, you know, you deal with in a certain way, and some people you deal with in a different way. Yeah. Some people need the cuddle, and some people need sort your fucking self out. You know, you
can't do that nowadays. You know.
No, exactly.
You got to give them a cuddle because it got so soft, didn't it?
This is it, you know. And but even then, I think I was a soft one, and, you know, and when you first met me, that just as it switched to Brite, I was a rider that I needed to get form.
Yeah.
I needed to have, but once I peaked and got it, and the diabetes was right, you know, the first I got bronze at the British Cyclocross Championships, and then obviously I would peak, and then it would spend me the whole of the season trying to get back up, back up, and then we always had problems at the velodrome because of obviously being so warm and in the hydration. You know, it was hard because you had these riders that were winning races, and also you were sacrificing yourself sometimes for other riders because you knew they had form, and, you know, you would, you know, I remember being in Belgium and we were blocking for one of our other riders that went on and won the race, and, you know, and so, you know, you didn't have the form, that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
But I know 100% without you, I wouldn't have done it. And I think because we had that, I had that, you would say, oh, Nathan, I want you to put your head in your oven. I would have said, how hot?
Yeah.
And some people don't do that.
Did I say that?
No, but
okay,
but I would have, you know, because I believed in, you know, and trusted you. It's helped me later in life.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, because you've been there, that's all you aim for.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not always going to get there, but so what you used to, I think when you was younger, you would get disappointed, but you're already more than where you was.
Yeah.
Because if you don't aim, you're not always going to achieve, but you're always going to be a lot higher. I do believe that as an athlete and what you taught me has then gone on to, you know, I use certain scenarios that when I'm talking about cycling and, you know, situations, and, you know, you're not always going to get it right, but one day you will.
One day you'll have your day.
Yeah.
And I've not forgot that, and I still preach the same thing. So it's a crazy journey when you think about it.
It was, you know, but it was funny times and the stories.
Mate. Well, I've got a lot of fond memories of you, mate, and I thank you very much for coming to Legro's Lab, just for that chat.
Yeah,
that's touched me a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, like what my dad said when you wrote your post recently, you know, my dad never forgets what, you know, you done for me.
Yeah.
And that's us as a family.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, and some people you won't get that from.
No.
But all the credit.
I deserve a knighthood, don't I?
I thought I'd chop your head off.
Oh, yeah.
But you have this funny side, and whether it's you have to be the joker of the pack. People don't, maybe, I don't know whether that's not an insecurity, but that's you as a person. You have to be the joker, but deep down, you got a heart, mate.
Thank you. And I think I kind of work like that. There is the funny Legro, and there's the serious Legro. There's also the Legro that cares, and I seem to have this thing about helping the underdog. You know, because anyone can train a champion. You know, it's not hard because it's in the genes, but you try and train somebody that is struggling. You know, and they've got, like, for instance, with your diabetes. But anyway, but thank you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
It's been really good to see you. You bastard.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah. I've only got to look at you and I laugh, so go in the house. Just go in. Go on, bugger off. Look, I put the tour on. Watch the tour, please. Right, okay. I don't believe this. I've only got to say welcome. Right, you ready?